Greetings. My name is Shayla Baylock, and this is my presentation on interpersonal communication. Next slide. Communication, according to Stewart in Building Bridges Not Walls, can be defined as the complex collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making, while interpersonal communication labels the kind of communication that happens when people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Next slide. There are 6 features of communication. The first one, meaning. The text, according to Stewart, explains that humans live in worlds of meaning, and communication is the collaborative process of making these meanings. Choice. All communication involves choices, either active or automatic. Culture. Culture and communication are intertwined. Factors such as ethnicity, gender, age, and social class always affect communication. Identities. All communication involves negotiating identities or selves. Conversations are the most influential events of communicating. Nexting includes responses, choices, and decisions about what will happen next. Next slide. My personal overarching goal is to become a level 1 empathetic listener. According to the Discovery Health Test, my strength is that I am very insightful. A potential strength for me is that my listening skills are average. Some interesting limitations that I discovered were my communication skills are poor. I am not assertive when speaking to others. I do not communicate clearly to others, and I am not comfortable dealing with emotions. The only one that did not come as a surprise to me is the 4th one. Before taking this quiz, I honestly felt that my communication was strong. Next slide. When it comes to enlarging my conversation, I can honestly admit that I am more in a level 2, maybe 3 listening range, and I need to be at a level 1. The solution to this is, I need to be more aware of my internal thought process and the distractions running through my head. I should listen more intently, free myself from any and all distractions, take helpful notes when it is necessary, and ask relevant questions for clarification purposes. Next slide. According to a journal that I came across, an interesting point made was that we do not just exchange words when we communicate. Instead, we create meanings as we figure out what each other's words and behaviors stand for, represent, or imply. Next slide. Another interesting point in the journal that I found was, in many areas of personal communication, scholars largely ignore listening as a central and important component in their research. Theories of supportive communication, for instance, propose that high-quality support is listener-centered. The assumption for this is that the helper is able to listen well in the supportive encounter so as to produce a sophisticated and beneficial supportive message. Next slide. Some things to consider in my background that I have highlighted are, I am an African American female in my mid-20s. I have 5 brothers and no biological sisters. I am very soft-spoken, but at the same time very effective. I am kind-hearted, compassionate, and giving. Some of the benefits of my background are, I am able to build lasting relationships. Others see me as relatable and trustworthy, and they value me as a friend. The downside to this is that I am very naive, and at times I get too emotionally involved. I'm often mistreated, and as a result, I'm afraid to trust. Sometimes I can be too empathetic. Next slide. According to the 4 temperament model of human behavior, my specific behavioral blend is the IS or SI type. Next slide. The way I think and feel are both driven by emotion. I am an emotional thinker who reasons with my heart and not my head. I believe it is expected of me to be influential through my charisma, warmth, and support. At times, I can be way too sympathetic and I take on the burdens of others more than I should. I am very passionate about helping others, and my goal is always to make others feel better about their situation. I try my best to make sound decisions so that people will want to follow me because of my genuineness and love for them. Lastly, I can feel the pain of someone I am close to, sometimes too much. At times, I involve myself too deeply. I have a desire to be everyone's friend and always look for a way to avoid confrontation. Next slide. Things that are expected of me involve me being outgoing, active, submissive, and a people person. While in reality, I am more comfortable with groups than being alone. I am people oriented. I can be either outgoing or reserved depending on my comfort level. Next slide. A few pros. I am passionate about making others feel better about themselves or their situations, and my strength lies within my people skills. Next slide. A few cons are I spend too much valuable time relating instead of taking initiative and acting on it, and I allow important details to slide to avoid hurting feelings. Next slide. Some potential barriers are being too tolerant and forgiving, withdrawing, being concerned with content rather than feeling, passive listening, and emotional overload causing difficulty in thinking, acting, and relating. Next slide. Solutions to those barriers are incorporate rationale and logic into thinking instead of thinking solely through emotion, be vocal about doubts, and also to be considerate towards the feelings of others but also to my own feelings. Next slide. Noise pollution includes factors, both internal and external, that can be defined as intrusive noise that disrupts, distracts, or detracts from regular functioning, hence, hindering one from being able to listen at a level 1 empathetic level. Next slide. Internal noise includes emotional listening, biased listening, hearing what you want to hear, and fatigue. A few ways to combat these are avoid being critical and judgmental, and to refrain from solving the talker's problems or thinking for them. Next slide. External noises include loud noises, temperature, interruptions, accents, or too many tasks but not enough time. Ways to combat these are take the initiative, focus on listening, resist external distractions, hold rebuttal, stay open minded. Also, evaluate and be critical of content but not the delivery. Next slide. My plan of action includes practicing level 1 communication at all times to maximize the quality of interactions that I have. I need to develop better listening habits, think more with my head and less with my heart, listen more intently, and pay more attention to nonverbal cues. Next slide. Some final thoughts that I will leave you with are a few quotes that I found. The first one, you can talk with someone for years, every day, and still, it won't mean as much as what you can have when you sit in front of someone, not saying a word, yet you feel that person with your heart. You feel like you have known the person forever. Connections are made with the heart, not the tongue. How would your life be different if you pretended those around you were deaf to your words? Let today be the day. You let your actions speak and communicate your feelings and intentions. Lastly, Proverbs 18 and 21 reads, "The tongue has the power of life and death." References are contained on the next slide. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed. Next slide.